Elon Musk has a track record of amplifying voices that are saying things that are demonstrably false.
Okay.
Case in point, the Southport riots. He promoted the idea that the attacker was a Muslim, which was not true. And this is just one of many examples. So why should we indulge someone who is so influential, saying things that, yes, people might agree with, but are false? I don't think there is really any way to appropriately justify that.
2025 has so far been dominated by one man, Elon Musk. He has made some explosive comments here in the United Kingdom about the grooming gang scandal, really ferocious attacks on Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips, unfairly, in my view. People will not be surprised about that. He's also clearly trying to influence what's happening in next month's German elections as well. He interviewed the leader of Germany's far-right party, Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, on X, Twitter, last night. And Alice Weidel is one of the candidates hoping to oust the Chancellor Olaf Scholz when Germany goes to the polls next month. Now, Musk has said that the AfD is the only party that can save Germany, and he's accused Western media of misrepresenting them. Let's have a listen to part of their conversation.
I would like to shed some light on the idea, when we talk about Hitler, on the idea of the National Socialists. Back then, during the Third Reich, the National Socialists, as the word says, they were socialists.
Yeah,
Adolf
very
Hitler
much so.
They
nationalized industries like crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was a communist, and he considered himself as a socialist.
It's worth saying that many reputable historians have pushed back on the idea that Hitler was a socialist. And what's interesting is Elon Musk has also been reported to have expressed a view that he's keen to try and do what he can to oust Keir Starmer from office here in the United Kingdom. Well, let's now speak with Marc Owen-Jones, who is an associate professor at Northwestern University and an expert in social media disinformation. He's somebody who sort of follows this stuff very closely. Marc, welcome to the show. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
So look, I mean, the big story of 2025, and I think this is not going to go away, it's something that governments across the world are going to have to think about, is how do you deal with these very powerful interventions from somebody like Elon Musk in domestic politics?
Well, I don't think there is any silver bullet in dealing with Elon Musk. I mean, what people often put on the table are very extreme solutions, such as, do we censor him somehow? Do we ban his platform like X? Or do we find some other way to hold him accountable? But I think what is clear is that, I mean, I think you mentioned in the sort of ahead of this discussion is that, should he butt out? Well, anyone has a right to say what he's saying. I think the question is like, are we willing to allow someone like Musk to say what he's saying? Because the things he is saying, in addition to his platform, don't forget he's the most followed person on X. He also has made his own platform promote his own tweets to more people. Should we be allowed to have someone that is absolutely willing to engage in inflammatory rhetoric that is designed to create polarization and division in society? Let's not remember, for the past few years, we've been talking a lot about things like Russian disinformation. And one of the strategies of Russian disinformation has been to try and create fragments and divisions within Western Europe and society, right? So we need to be talking about Elon Musk in the same way we've been talking about the way the Russians, for example, interfere in our politics, because that's exactly what Elon Musk is doing.
I mean, I think that's very smart in terms of the read across with Russian disinformation. But I suppose the realpolitik of this, Marc, is we and leading politicians in the West have they would absolutely denounce what Russia is doing, but Elon Musk is everyone's trying to cozy up to Elon Musk because he's incredibly powerful. He has the ear of the president. Now let's see what happens with that relationship. Maybe it might implode, but he's not just running some kind of bot farm. He's incredibly powerful, and let's be honest, a lot of politicians are terrified of him, but also want to curry favor with him.
I mean, you're right. I'm not disputing those things, and it's not quite the same as Russia. But let's not forget, Russia is also a powerful nation with wealth. But you're right. People are, I think, the issue with Musk is I think there would be politicians, whether it's Keir Starmer or others, who would be willing to take a firmer line. I think at some point, people aren't sure whether to pull the, to actually to take that stand that is necessary for someone like Elon Musk to shut them down. The issue, I think, in UK politics in particular is that people are using Elon Musk to sow division. Someone like Nigel Farage, for example, the head of the Reform UK party, is trying to sort of, had tried, for example, to use his relationship with the US, Trump, and also curry favor with Musk. He met Musk to try and create like this bridge between the UK and the US. So there are people trying to do that, but I think British politicians, especially after the Jess Phillips incident, need to take an incredibly firm stand when it comes to Elon Musk and not be seen to pander to him. Because at the moment, all that will happen will Elon Musk will be able to get his way. Because before it's too late, he will say something outlandish. There will be a response. And he at the same time is riling up support for him and the kind of worldview that he represents. The longer you allow that to go on as a UK politician, the more essentially you're spreading this kind of divisive poison in British society. So there has to be an entertainment of bolder steps. And I'm not necessarily calling, for example, for censorship, but let's not forget, some countries have gone to more extremes. In Australia, for example, they've banned social media platforms for people under the age of 16. That'll take effect hopefully in a year. People are increasingly willing to take these drastic steps. And we're not just talking about authoritarian regimes, we're talking about democracies who are understanding the toxic and harmful nature of social media platforms. Yes, for younger people, but we have to accept that this is also an issue for adults and older people. There needs to be a discussion about what value social media platforms are having. And one thing I want to add is the debate about free speech, I think, is entirely misleading, right? Someone who runs X or Zuckerberg or Musk, they will try to position their platforms as this kind of public square or public space where people have a voice. That's nonsense, right? This isn't about free speech. This is the free market of speech. What do I mean by that? If there's free speech, everyone has the right to be heard equally. In the case of X, you have someone with a lot of money whose tweets are amplified, who's drowning out other people in the debate. That's not free speech. That's just a right to have a really loud megaphone, shout out other people.
And it's amplifying my kind of free speech. Now, quite a few of our listeners, Mark, have messaged in saying, nope, not having this. It's time to, press the nuclear button. The UK government should shut down X. That's from Clive. John says Musk needs to stay out of other countries. If he doesn't, let's do what Brazil did, ban X, and that will hurt his pocket and sponsors cancel him. Is that realistic, Mark?
I actually think it is realistic, and it's something that I think, I personally think that the UK government will have to entertain. I mean, Elon Musk hasn't just been active this year. We have to remember, after the violence of the Southport riots last year, Elon Musk was saying things like, the UK is heading towards civil war. It's unacceptable. And I do, whether banning the platform is one thing, I think the UK government could actually create laws that essentially mean that the only way X could operate in the UK is by really adhering to stringent transparency and safety laws. If they're unwilling to do that, as we saw in Brazil, then they could be banned. That's not banning it outright. That's just saying, listen, if you want to work in the UK, you've got to respect our laws and you've got to respect human rights, because this is actually also a human rights issue.
Now, just to, I suppose, ask the question that some people might be listening at home that have a different, set of views or a different set of politics to, let's say, mine. They might say, look, you might not like Elon Musk, but we do. We like what he says. We like what his arguments are. We feel he's speaking for us in a way that, our voices aren't heard on mainstream media. You can't just cancel people because you don't like them. That's been the problem with the mainstream press and the establishment. What would you say to them? In fact, if you sought to ban him, you'd almost lionize him more and lionize his views.
Well, I think there are two different issues. I think banning him, yes, it would lionize him. Whether that, but I do take issue with the, I like what he says. I think that's, lots of people will say that. I completely understand that. I like ice cream. It doesn't mean if I eat a lot, it's a good thing. It would be very unhealthy. And we have to think of information in the same way. We have a diet of food. We also have a thought diet. The information we consume is like a diet, right? Because you like what Elon Musk, not you, but the hypothetical you might like what Elon Musk says. It doesn't make it factually correct. It doesn't make it accurate. Yes, people will agree with that in terms of ideologically, but really we have to have, if we're talking about making good policy policy that's beneficial. We need to have this kind of a sort of set of rules that respects each other's right to speech, but also respects the truth and respects humanity. I don't think there is a good space here for promoting hate speech, especially when that hate speech is based on falsehoods. And Elon Musk has a track record of amplifying voices that are saying things that are demonstrably false.
Okay.
Case in point, the Southport riots. He promoted the idea that the attacker was a Muslim, which was not true. And this is just one of many examples.
Okay.
So why should we indulge someone who is so influential saying things that, yes, people might agree with, but are false?
Okay.
I don't think there is really any way to appropriately justify that.
Now, Mark, before I let you go, I'll just read a couple of messages because lots of people are messaging through. Lisa says there's a pattern emerging with this government, too slow to react and counter rants and misinformation with facts. Banning them makes them more the victim and more attractive. Derek's got a really interesting message saying, my take on Musk's comments is that he's entirely entitled to say what he likes and it's up to us to either take it or leave it. It's as easy as that. The problem that you all in the media have given him a megaphone. You don't just mention what he says, but you keep on talking about it day after day. Collectively, you've magnified it all out of proportion. Be quiet about it and it'll go away in a day. I think that's quite an interesting point. And someone else says, banning it will make us look bad. Take Estonian-style education to our kids about the sewer that is online for a start. Mark, thanks so much for your time. A really interesting conversation. It's certainly got a lot of our listeners, discussing this. Thanks for your time. That's Marc Owen-Jones, who's an expert in social media disinformation at Northwestern University.